Hi everyone, no major news today, so let's get straight into the data. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. Looking at the Fear and Greed Index, we did get into neutral territory here today at a 45, up from a 41. A week ago we were at 25, so it's been a run. Again, getting into that neutral territory. If you find rejections, it's usually around that 50 area. Just like we did here, got all the way up to 57 before we rejected, all the way down to that 19 area. So once again, is this going to be a lower high, just like it was here in May to July? And then looking at the individuals, step down from extreme greed down to regular on momentum, strength rolling down a little bit, breadth still hanging out, still in greed, put call ratio has fallen all the way down into regular greed, and then volatility, look at that, little bit of a spike. We talked about that being possible yesterday, and it did happen here today. And then looking at bonds, this has continued to rally. We're back into regular fear on safe haven, but junk bonds still sitting in extreme fear. Moving over to seasonality, you can see still in this bullish period for election years and then bearish period here for non-election years. So waiting to see what happens. Tomorrow looks a little bit bearish, and you can see the step today was supposed to be slightly bearish. Tomorrow basically flat. So see how it plays. Markets don't look super great at this point of resistance. Moving over to the economic data, CPI for the Eurozone coming in line with expectations. Tomorrow we have FOMC minutes in the afternoon. Markets are definitely going to react to that. How likely are we to get that September rate cut? Definitely could get hoping to get some information there. And then for Thursday, we have some economic data. Jackson Hole Symposium starts. And then for Friday, Jackson Hole Symposium again. And Fed Pal speaking at 10 o'clock. That's definitely going to be interesting, along with new home sales. Moving over to Max Pain, you can see put walls here at 545, 550, and 554. 558 is the current price, so we're all the way up here, almost at the top of the puts. Again, just about $1, $2, maybe higher from here. We're already at the top, so wouldn't expect a ton of up moves before the end of the week. And then again, looking at that chart, you can see we're all the way up here. You expect it to kind of settle in the middle here, closer to that 550, 549 area. Looking at the charts, starting off with the S&Ps, you can see here on the hourly chart, we have been on this pretty much straight up trend over the last couple days. Now you can see we got a doji on the day, 0.16 on the day at resistance, 560.07. Tested that level immediately on the session open and then sold off. And then you can see volume on this session was in the last candle of the day, which was a selling candle. And then after hours, we're seeing a little bit more selling. So the 55 EMA sitting at 555.93, and then below that 554.87. Wouldn't shock me if we at least saw a retest of that zone and then got a push higher, or if we broke through there, your next level would be all the way down in the 550s. Still a ton of puts in the market like we saw, so I wouldn't expect to see a huge breakdown, but this is definitely bearish. We've been talking about a potential double top. Still could see that gap fill back to the 16 July candle. The open there was 562.87, so it's definitely within striking range. Momentum on the daily chart is still hanging in there, but RSI stepped down a little bit. Not a ton of volume on the day. Hourly momentum slightly bearish. Looking at the Tasty charts here, you can see that ATR resistance was at 558.82, and that is basically right where we're at, 558.70. We technically closed above it yesterday, but we closed back below it here today, so it's technically bullish conditions, but you could argue for some bearish conditions there. At this major resistance, ATR resistance is 559.37. If you push to that next level, that would be 569.23. Seems less likely after today's candle. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, you can see we were definitely extended, getting sideways choppy action, hovering right at that 8 EMA, 558.24. If that breaks down, we're probably headed to ATR support down at 554.37, or about a 1% down move, and then we'll see what happens after that. No volume, volume-weighted MACD bearish. Moving over to the NASDAQ, you can see the same thesis, tested the level, rejected from there. That was 481.97, moved lower. Last candle selling, momentum bearish, more selling after hours. 21 EMA, and that's pretty substantial, almost $1 down after hours, or 0.25%. Look at the doji, 0.21 on the day. Momentum still hanging in there, not too bad. Haven't stepped down quite yet. RSI hovering here though. Again, critical zone. Definitely watching this. And if we did reject from here, this would be a substantially lower high from the previous high. Still looking for a potential gap fill. I don't think we're going to get it. I think maybe the SPY is going to do it, but it doesn't seem like the NASDAQ is going to, especially after today's candle. Could just be a short-term pullback, but it is an inside candle, and that's a bearish setup. Moving over to the Tasty charts, you can see that ATR band, that ATR resistance, that's at 484.32. Inside candle there. Momentum still bullish on the volume-weighted MACD, but this is a zone where we expected to find resistance, and this is still bearish conditions here. Did touch that second upper ATR band. That was at 482.70. And the high of day was 482.94, so we did touch that and then reject from there. And then similarly to the SPY, you can see we were extended, pull back in time, 8 EMA sitting there at 479.69, and that is basically right where we're at after hours. Again, basically no volume. Momentum on the volume-weighted MACD is bearish. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, the Russell moved down pretty substantially, 1.17%. Momentum still bullish, RSI rolling down a little bit, tested the level at 112.10, held that level technically, and it is flat after hours, so nothing crazy there. And then you can see the Dow down 0.13, basically the same as the other indices, still grinding along that upper trend line. Momentum still ticking to bullish, RSI basically the same, flat from yesterday, waiting to see if this rolls back down to the SMA or not. Moving over to the Mag 7, down 0.1, falling a little bit after hours. Support is going to be that 265.08 level. Momentum bullish, RSI still bullish here, so could be just a wick high, still looking for that gap fill back to that 23 July candle. The close of the day was 271.08, and the high of today was 270.23, so missed it just by around 75 cents. Could see another push there, and then the next level, if we did get through there, was 273.41, so still looks okay. Momentum, if we did get another sideways candle or slightly down, we could see that step down. RSI potentially pulling back to the SMA, and then we'll see what happens after that. Moving over to Taiwan Semi and Upstart, just to follow up on yesterday, you can see Taiwan Semi tested the level, still held it though at 171.10. After hours, it's below it. Touched that 9 EMA, touched the 55 EMA, but momentum stepped back down to bearish here. Needed to hold this level, but based on that momentum and RSI, this is probably going to pull back a little bit deeper. If it holds the SMA on RSI, pulls back to that level and then bounces, that could be an interesting setup. But right now, this does look a little bit more bearish. 21 EMA sitting as potential support at 163.63. And then looking at Upstart, inside candle here as well, momentum. We got a strong move on the Monday, couldn't hold those gains and then rolled back down, stepping down on momentum. RSI, similarly looking for a retest of that SMA. Then we'll see what happens there. And then your support level below that 9 EMA would be 33.96, just below that trend line there as well. So short term, might see this pull back a little bit more, and definitely doesn't look as good today as it did yesterday. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, you can see Apple was up 0.27 and Microsoft 0.78. We talked about Microsoft being a potentially better setup. It hasn't rallied as much as Apple. Apple seems to be finding some resistance kind of at this high from 22 July. Next level for me would be that 2030-28 level. Then we'll see if we can get the gap fill back to 16 July or not. Momentum still bullish here, but seems to be fading slightly. Similarly here on Microsoft, strong up candle, momentum continues to step higher. RSI is above the 50 line, so this looks more likely like that it's going to push to that 429.88 level and potentially even to that 55 EMA at 434.13. So Microsoft looking much better here today. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, both of these pulling back here today as well. Inside candle for NVIDIA, not great. Selling off after hours. The level is 124.69. If that breaks, we're probably headed back down to the 120 area. Momentum basically flat. RSI pulling back. Based on this, again, you would still expect a higher low setup off of this previous low, but it does seem like we're going to get some short-term bearishness. Similarly here on Tesla, momentum stepping okay. RSI still okay, but it tried to go higher, rejected from there. Reversal candle, selling off after hours. Support for me is down at 214. Moving over to Meta and Alphabet, you can see Meta basically a double top at this point, looking like it's going to sell. Momentum selling off. RSI right at the SMA. If it breaks through there, that's going to be awful. Certainly could bounce from there, but something to watch for. And then looking at Google, you can see a solid low, higher low setup. Not the same V-shaped recovery we've seen in the rest of markets, but does look a little bit better now. We said it looked very strong yesterday, got the continuation here, 0.33. 170.95 is the level. If that breaks, you got the 55 sitting there at 176.78. Between these two, though, Google definitely looks better. Moving over to staples and discretionary, staples rocketing up 0.5%, just a couple of pennies off of its all-time highs back here from April of 22. That all-time high there is 81.34, and we are about 10 cents off of that. Probably going to get to all-time highs here tomorrow. This continues to look good. And then discretionary is Doji at the level 185.36. Tried to get above it, couldn't do it. Momentum probably going to roll down tomorrow. We'll see how this plays. Again, if we establish that higher low, we're probably in good shape, but this is is probably a short-term top, and then we'll see what happens after that. Moving over to wood and gold here. Wood has been on a pretty solid run from around 76 all the way up to 80, potentially pushing back to these previous highs around 81.50 to 82. Seems like wood is holding up even with that risk of recession. And then looking at gold, strong candle there as well, 0.37. Good volume on the day. Again, wicking an all-time high, pulling back to this previous support. And this looks good going into tomorrow's session. So commodities seem to be in good shape, although oil did crater here today. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon, we've been talking about these. They still look decent. I honestly hoped for a little bit better push here today, but it's taken its sweet time. Momentum still swinging back to bullish, RSI swinging back to bullish. At this point, it might reject from that 21 EMA. I still think we'll get a little bit more swing to the upside, but I would be hesitant past that 21 EMA on both of these, which is at 902 and 1781 respectively. Moving over to 20 and 50-day breadth, these did basically exactly what we thought they were going to do, which is unfortunate. That means bearishness is probably going to come tomorrow or the next day. You can see 20-day breadth rejecting off of this previous high from July, and that resulted in a substantial down move. And similarly here, we're right in that zone, starting to show some signs of bearishness. Can still take a couple days, even with that first bearish candle. Momentum still bullish there. Once we get that first bearish candle on momentum though, that usually triggers the swing, so we're getting close. And then looking at 50-day breadth, similarly here, hit this zone of resistance, rejected from there. Tested support, we'll see if it breaks through. Either way, zone of resistance for both of these, and they are showing signs of rejection already. Moving over to the dollar, this has been a brutal sell. Absolutely bananas here, selling over 1.5% in 3 days. Huge move for the dollar. 3 strong bearish candles. We said 101.25 was the price target, and we are just a couple of pennies off of that. Momentum super bearish. RSI super bearish. Super oversold as well at 26.65. This is probably propping up markets with the dollar continuing to sell off super aggressive. I would expect at least a wick to this level here tomorrow. I don't think this is going to continue straight down like this. Super oversold conditions like I mentioned, but the dollar continues to look very bearish. Moving over to JNK and TLT, you can see JNK pulled back just a little bit, 0.06. It is a little bit extended. Momentum probably going to roll to bearish, probably going to see a pullback. Still could see a higher low just like everything else, and then potentially push to that 96.51 area. We'll see how it looks, but right now, same as everything else, slightly bearish potentially. And then looking at TLT continuing to rocket higher towards that trend line, which is sitting around that 99.40 area, and then 100.05 is the next price target. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, continuing to be bullish here on treasuries. Moving over to my accounts, I did fine on the day. You can see Russell down $100. This was a pretty powerful move, so the calls didn't cover all of it. Have to be patient for that rest of the $400 to come in over the next 6 days, but still have some decent protection there. Only 19 deltas going into tomorrow's session, and it was down $2 on the day, so protected from about half of that. And then the Qs down $1 on the day. I was trading in and out of this, so I actually mitigated most of the losses. You can see my longer dated call made $84, and then the shares lost $248. So I was able to make up the difference on some short-term trading and only lose about $50 on the day. And I'm not sure that that's even $50 on the day. I think that might have been this after hours move getting priced in, which was about another 50 cents lower. So overall, not a bad day of trading. Made a little bit of money. So mitigated about $170 of losses there, depending on how this shakes out. So pretty good intraday trading just to make up some of those shorter term losses. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the charts. Are we developing a short term top, or are we going to push through those levels early in tomorrow's session? And what do you think about the FOMC comments tomorrow? Are those going to stimulate rate cut hype, or will they push markets lower? Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.